What is the common link between a trim tab and a Philosopher King? Hi, I'm John Rose. Perhaps I should be a little more specific. What is the common link between being a trim tab and being a Philosopher King? Now this video is especially for my long-time subscribers or any of you guys who've watched enough of my videos to know what a trim tab is and a Philosopher King. Now you may not have picked up on the Philosopher King yet. I've only done one video where I specifically talked about the Philosopher King. But it's still related to the answer, that's the common link, which of course is going to be related to the trim tabs. So what do you think it is, guys? Think about it. Might want to pause right now if you haven't thought of it already, because I'm going to tell you what it is in just a few moments. The common link is Plato's cave. Plato knew that we're in this cave of ignorance. We don't know how to live. We can't find the truth. We act stupidly and wrongly. That's Plato's words. And that the only people who are qualified to rule over us are those who find that knowledge we need. They've come out of the cave and they know directions. They can give directions to everybody else. Those are our leaders. You can't lead unless you've been out of the cave. So the only true Philosopher Kings are those who come out of this cave of ignorance that Plato talks about. I've done lots of videos on Plato's cave. Did a real long compilation of quite a few. I'll put a link down below if you're not familiar. I won't go into any more detail than this already. And then we've got the trim tabs. Now if you don't know what a trim tab is because you haven't watched enough of my videos, or you may know what one is but you may not understand how it relates to Plato's cave, the trim tab is a rudder on the rudder. You got a big old ship, huge monstrous ship that has rudders that are 5-6 stories tall. You can't turn that rudder to turn the ship. You got to have a rudder on the rudder, and that is a trim tab. And when you come out of Plato's cave, you can't stay out of Plato's cave. No man is an island. You cannot come out of Plato's cave and ever be alone, because most of your friends and family and everyone else is still down in the cave. So you go back down into Plato's cave. That's a trim tab. You go back down there to help everybody you know. You want to help organize people to get to the tipping point so we can get out of this cave of ignorance where we don't even know how to live. Now, a lot of people may think they're out of Plato's cave because they've gone up a level. Remember, it's the cave of ignorance. There's a lot of things we don't know. Most people don't know how to live. And most people don't even know there's a small group of people who are owning and controlling every major sector of human endeavor so they can bombard our brains with so much bullshit we'll never figure things out. Fortunately, there are a lot more people waking up to that reality than the rest of us, but they don't realize they've only gone up a level, so to speak, in Plato's cave. They still haven't found the knowledge of how to live so they can get out of this cave completely, so they realize, why are there people doing this to us? We're in this cave. So it helps to go up levels in Plato's cave to see the big picture, to understand how we can work downstream. But we got to get out of this cave, and that's where the trim tabs come into play. The trim tabs would be what I believe to be the first of what would be 3 waves of heroes to save the day. The definition of a hero is simply a person who can solve a problem or problems that no one else can solve. We don't have knowledge of how to live. When we find that knowledge, we're solving most of our problems, because most of our problems are self-inflicted. It's that simple, my friends, but we've been fed a bunch of lies and we don't know that. We think we got to go to someone else who are the experts, and yet they aren't taught this intentionally, because the status quo wants to remain the status quo. Remember, there's another level in Plato's cave. It's like there's a fox guard in a hen house, and then there are wolves controlling them. Got a lot of levels in this Plato's cave. There's a lot of knowledge we need to learn, and with that we can do downstream work. But we got to realize the value of what created that. Remember, I've identified 10 subsequent needs because we're eating the wrong foods. We're not eating our biophotons. We lost one of our senses. And now we have this dark side to our behavior that keeps us where we are. So there's only one way to defeat that aspect of us, and that is for all of us to get out of this cave of ignorance. And that's where the trim tabs come into play. That's where the first of 3 waves of heroes we need to get our planet back to the golden ages, to get our civilization back to that level where we didn't have this level of evil that we have today. Second wave of heroes, remember the first wave, that's the critical mass. That's the rudder on the rudder. That's the tipping, that's to get us to the tipping point. Once we get the rudder of the rudder to change the rudder itself will be critical mass. That's the second stage of heroes. These are all the people who are going to jump on board, because now we realize that's what we're going to do. It's going to be a no-brainer once we get to this point. There's not going to be any willingness issues because everybody's going to want to do it because you can't help but look around and see everyone doing it and getting great results. And of course, there's another wave of heroes that are going to be a little reluctant and resistant to this change. And at that time, we'll figure out the best way to deal with these people. But once we get the rudder to change, that's the majority. Once we have the majority of us doing the right thing, we're going to wake up and realize that no one has a right to bring the rest of us down. I believe in freedom to do almost anything you want to do as long as it doesn't do something that's going to lower you, and then it's going to lower the rest of us because we're all one. We got to look at it that way. We're all in this together. So that third wave of heroes will seal the connection. And that's what it's going to take to finally get out of this place we're in. We need all three waves of heroes, the trim tabs for the tipping point, the critical mass, the second wave for the majority, and the third wave, this will complete our connection so that we'll all understand that we're all one. We'll all, at that point, realize the benefits. That the more we give, the more we receive. My God, life is such an illusion. We live on such an abundant planet, but we're so far off. Our mentality is so far off. And why do we have the wrong mentality? Again, if you watch my other videos, you know why. You know why this is the hero's journey. We're not eating our biophotons anymore. We're not keeping our sixth sense up to the level where it's supposed to be, so we can be the guardians we're supposed to be on this planet. I guarantee you, once we finally become those guardians, all these other guys are in for a treat.